Good morning, everybody. My name is Rupert Thompson, and I have with me here Katrina Weston.
Morning.
It's a bit earlier in the morning for us here, as you probably know. But we are based in the UK, in Cambridge, and we are the international booking office for the American Queen Steamboat Company that is based in Memphis in the USA. And we're just going to talk today for about half an hour about the company and the vessels, the three vessels that it has: the American Queen, which you can see a nice, fantastic picture of you in front of you there. The American Duchess, which is launching in August this year, a smaller vessel and on the Mississippi, and the American Empress, which sails in the Pacific Northwest along the Columbia and Snake Rivers out of Portland in Oregon. So we're going to start by talking to you about the American Queen, the iconic largest vessel. It is the largest riverboat in the world, in fact. When we talk about riverboats, we often liken it to one of these European Rhine type Viking river cruise flatboats. This has 6 decks, 213 cabins, and holds up to about 430 people. So this is a riverboat that is really the size of a small ocean vessel. As you can see from the picture, the paddle wheel at the back is still cutting into the water and powering 60% of the boat. So it's authentic in the fact that it is a replica of an original paddle steamer. It has the 2 chimney stacks at the front that are hydraulically lowered when you go under low bridges. And just behind the chimney stacks, you can see what's called the pilot house, which is where the captain and crew, navigational crew sit. It is what we class as an authentic paddle steamer. It was built in 1995, but is a replica of an original paddle steamer, which is the way that the Americans used to travel in the antebellum Civil War era. They would travel. This would be the way of first-class travel. They used to use their rivers for traveling around, and this would be the very top-end way of traveling. There used to be gambling on board. There is no gambling anymore allowed on an American river. However, this boat has been built in exactly the same style as the originals, which you will see from the pictures later on. So it is a bit like a sort of floating boutique hotel. The interior is of the antebellum era, so it's very similar to the sort of old plantation houses that it visits on the Mississippi. And the style of furnishings and decor is in line with a very historical nature. It is a member of the Historical Hotels Association of America, which is an organization which is for properties, houses, buildings, etc. that are over 100 years old. The way that the American Queen qualifies for this, it was built in 1995, so it's obviously not 100 years old, but they cheated a bit, so they found a bit of old engine on the seabed near New Orleans, pulled it out and realized it was over 100 years old and stuck it in their engine. So that qualified them to be part of this organization. But it does tie in with the organization, and it donates over $100,000 to the organization each year. So what does the American Queen do? We'll go on to the maps in a minute, but just to tell you a bit about what's included. Every voyage is, or sort of 95% of the voyages are 8 nights, which includes 7 nights on board, so 7 nights on board the American Queen, and 1 pre-cruise hotel night. And that's in a 4-star hotel in Memphis or New Orleans. Kat, what are the hotels that we use?
So it's the Sheraton Memphis downtown or the Hilton New Orleans Riverside.
And these are all quite well located for the dock. And then you're transferred to the boat after your pre-cruise hotel night. When you've got potentially 430 people going on board, the check-in needs to be done at the hotel. So the check-in is arranged at the hotel, and then the boat sails at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and embarkation is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you then have 7 nights on board. There are a range of different categories of cabins, but all the services are exactly the same, unless you take one of the main suites on the vessel, and you are offered a special Commodore service with those, which we'll mention later. But everybody else gets the same service in terms of all meals, drinks and dinner, drinks with dinner, which includes wine and beer. All during the day, there's coffees, water, soft drinks, etc., ice cream served. So there is a 24-hour sort of service that you can utilize for anything else you want. If you want additional alcoholic drinks, then you have to purchase those. There is a team of musicians and performers on board, so there is nightly entertainment in terms of a show in the Grand Saloon, and there's a 45-minute show, and we'll talk about that a bit later. There are lecturers on board. In the States, they call them Riverlorians, and they give talks throughout the day. They're available. You might have 1 or 2 specialists in Civil War history or in the music of the river and the wildlife. And they are available. They're wandering around the boat, and they also give talks in the theatre. And you get complimentary shore excursions in each of the ports. So the boat sails at night and then arrives first thing in the morning into a particular port, and then you have these 5 or 6 coaches that travel along land with the boat. They're branded with American Queen colours, and they have a particular circuit they do of each port of call. They have American guides, so obviously English-speaking guides on board, who are telling you where to hop on and hop off, so giving you the points of interest. So these are all included in the price of the fare. The lead-in price is $2,000. That's for a twin inside cabin. So it gives you an attractive attractive lead-in price. But as I said, there are many different types of cabins, so it does go. I think they go up to the average price is more like $2,500–3,000 for the international market. The additional items that you need to pay on board are drinks, as I mentioned before, alcoholic drinks, gratuities. In the States, they have a policy it's very much a tipping culture over there, and gratuities are for $16.50 per person, or next year $17.50 per person, which are automatically added to your room account. I know that this can cause complications with the German travel industry, so it's probably best that those are prepaid, or we can make exceptions so that those can be prepaid rather than payable on board, so the trip is all inclusive of gratuities. And then there are premium excursions in the afternoon when you're in a port. During the morning, the hop-on, hop-off service operates, and in the afternoon they have premium excursions, which might go to a Civil War battlefield, or a swamp tour, or a plantation house. And they're specialist excursions. They're payable and pre-bookable, and they range between $59 and $79 usually. So the main route that the American Queen is traveling is Memphis to New Orleans and vice versa, New Orleans to Memphis. So these are 7-day voyages. So from Memphis to New Orleans, the route goes via Greenville, which is a big sort of home of the blues city, Vicksburg, a battlefield, historical battlefield site there, Natchez, which is old plantation houses, St. Francisville, and Baton Rouge, which is the capital of Louisiana, and then Nottoway, which is an old plantation house. You get down to New Orleans, that's where all the plantation houses are in that stretch of river there. And going the other way, New Orleans to Memphis, which is again a 7-night cruise, you're visiting very much the same sort of places, but slightly different in terms of you're visiting Helena at the top, nearer Memphis. So many of you will know, if you know the Deep South, you'll probably know New Orleans quite well, but Memphis is the home of the American Queen. It's Music City, and the hotel where the guests stay, the Sheraton downtown, is quite centrally located. You can quite easily access the town. It has a tram stop outside. And there's many places to visit. Obviously, it has a strong association with the Memphis Town Council, City Council, and Priscilla Presley is godmother of the boat, so we have fast-track access into Gracelands, and then we do a premium tour on the day of embarkation, which goes to Graceland, Rock and Soul Museum and Sun Studio. And then there's other places to visit, like the famous Peabody Hotel. New Orleans is a very sort of vibrant, energetic city, as we describe it there. It's sort of a 24-hour city without the gambling. The home of jazz, has a fantastic old traditional French quarter. And it's well worth a 2 or 3 night stay there to take in the real flavour of the place. There is one cruise that we operate in July and August time when it's too hot to travel down in the very south, Memphis, New Orleans. The boat goes right the way up to Minneapolis, St. Paul. And we do 3 back-to-back voyages which take you all the way from New Orleans to Minneapolis. So it's a 23-day voyage. This has proved quite popular. Both the American Queen and the American Duchess, who are based on the Mississippi, they both do this voyage in sort of the July, August time when it's very hot down in the south. So this is the Queen. As you can see, it's a flat-bottom paddle steamers. All paddle steamers are flat-bottomed, and it can literally pull up to the side of the river. So in the case of any high tides or anything like that, or water levels, the boat can literally pull up to the bank. I've seen it sort of moored against trees and things like that before. And if we can get our coaches there, we can operate the hop-on, hop-off bus services. So there's no particular issue with waters. We don't have to get into the dock. As you can see, I don't know if you see my cursor, this is the Grand Saloon Theatre, which is housed in the interior, so the double deck. So and then at the front we have the J.M. White dining room, which again is double deck. So quite unusual on a river cruise boat to have a double deck room. So it gives us a lot of light and a lot of space. Here's a nice overhead picture. It shows the deck space all around the boat. So as you can see, there's plenty of very wide deck space outside the cabins and in all these sort of communal areas. There's an engine room bar at the back here, which overlooks the paddle wheel at the back. Here's, again, inside is the theatre and the dining room at the front. There is a very good video that we were going to try and play, but I don't think it's quite appropriate to do on this webinar. So we're going to send that video to you after the presentation. Katrina will email you by Dropbox the video, and it's by an American TV cruise critic called Ralph Grizzle. Very interesting name, and he explains, it's a 4-minute video, but it's called Get Acquainted to the American Queen, and it gives you a very good sort of overview of the vessel. Entertainment on board, I mentioned the shows. They have 2 shows in each evening. They run back to back. There are 2 dining. One is 5 o'clock in the afternoon, very early. Some of the Americans like to eat early, and the later dining is 7:45.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock in the evening. So we assume that most international guests will go for the 8 o'clock dining, but you have the choice. And then there are 2 shows. So the Grand Saloon Theatre holds 250 people, so they do 2 back-to-back 45-minute shows. So if you take the early dining, you take the first show after dinner, and if you do the late dining, you do the second show just before dinner. In addition to that, so we have 6 musicians and 4 performers on board. They perform very much the music of the area that you're traveling in. So a lot of rock and roll and blues near Memphis, and as you get down to New Orleans, more sort of jazz. And then there are additional performances. There's a piano lounge, and in the engine room bar, there are musicians playing there at night, and there's dancing. There's also, in the main Grand Saloon Theatre, they clear the tables after the performance and the band plays on, and there's dancing there as well. So there's a picture of the Grand Saloon Theatre. As you can see, it's quite authentic. It has a balcony upstairs, so if you take one of the suites, you get one of those reserved private boxes for you. Otherwise, anybody's welcome to sit upstairs and enjoy. This is the antebellum style that I was talking about earlier. So this is the grand staircase that leads down from the main reception area down to the dining room. And they have a large collection of these Tiffany glass lamps, one of the largest collections in the world. This is the Mark Twain Gallery. Again, you can see a lot of these Tiffany glass lamps around, but as you can see, it is very much in the old style of these plantation houses. This is another view of the Mark Twain Gallery. This is the ladies' parlour room. I'm not sure if just ladies are allowed in there, but I think I've seen a few men in there. And the gentleman's card room. So you can see there's quite a lot of history and style to the furnishings and the decor of the boat. The dining is breakfast is buffet style, and lunch is a buffet style as well. Actually, I think breakfast is table served as well.
Mm-hmm. Both.
So yeah, it's both. And dinner in the J.M. White dining room is a fairly formal dinner. It's 5 courses, very high quality food. There's a good choice of different things. There's quite a lot of dishes from the Deep South. And the dress code is sort of what we say in the UK, smart casual. The Americans call it country club casual, which nobody seems to understand. But hopefully you can understand smart casual. So men might wear a jacket, but I have seen men in there with tailored shorts and no jacket. But it's certainly not sort of jeans and trainers, but it's not ties or black tie or anything like that. This is the J.M. White dining room. As you can see, quite spacious and very tall ceilings. So a lot of light gets in, and it's unusual to have this on a vessel of the kind. The Commodore service I mentioned relates to people who are taking the suites, which are higher up the boat on the top 2 levels, top 2 decks. And if you have Commodore service, some of the suites have a private butler, and you have laundry service, shoes, afternoon tea served in your suite. You have pre-dinner cocktails, reception with the senior officers, the captain, etc. So there are benefits for staying in the suites, and you get reserved seating in the theatre as well. These are some of the pictures of the cabins. We'll be sending you all this information so that you can see the types of cabins and the deck plans. There are some 30 or 40 cabins with private verandas. The rest all lead out onto the deck, but the deck is very wide, so you have this small table and chairs outside your French doors. But I think you do get quite a lot of individual privacy as well. So these are just some more suites and staterooms, give you a bit of style idea of the boat. There are bicycles to hire, so when you're sailing, you're arriving in the morning, so you can reserve a bicycle. There's no charge. There's 40 bicycles on board. Everything is pretty flat down in the Mississippi. Small swimming pool and a small gymnasium. And these are the coaches I told you about, heavily branded by American Queen, so there's no excuse for missing the bus. Around each port there are American Queen bus signs put up, bus stops, so they're very, very well branded. So the tour of the circuit of a particular port takes about 20 minutes, and there's American guides, English speaking, on board telling you where the points of interest are. Each of the cruises has a very soft theme. Some might do the music of the 60s. Mainly in the lower Mississippi, it's called the Antebellum South. So it's about the history and everything about the river, the music, food, a lot of Mark Twain and things like that. And this is Oak Alley. This is one of the plantation houses. This is actually where the boat docks. So this is the view that you get in when you wake up in the morning, if you're lucky enough to have a cabin like that. And this house in particular has been beautifully restored. Everyone shows you around the house. They're in traditional costume. And then around the back of the house, the slaves' quarters have been restored. So you get a real story of the history of, what happened in the Deep South and the slave trade. This is another house down near New Orleans called Humus House. Gives you a good impression of the size of the vessel, which you can see docked at the side. So that is the American Queen. I'm going to move on fairly quickly because we're running a bit slowly on to the American Duchess, which is a vessel that is doing exactly the same routes as the American Queen on the lower Mississippi. It's sailing throughout the year, and it will be sailing in August this year. This is a digital image, but the paddle wheel still powers the boat. It's a much smaller vessel, has 83 cabins, but it's an all-suite superior vessel to the Queen. So it's an all-suite vessel and has a higher price point. I think the lead-in price is $3,000. But we're very much looking forward to having this new boat. These are some images of the interior. It has some spectacular suites. It has 4 of these loft suites, which are on 2 floors. So you have a lounge and bathroom and small kitchen area downstairs. And then upstairs you have a bedroom and a bathroom. So very exclusive, higher price point, but doing exactly the same itineraries as the American Queen. And now we move on to the American Empress, which is 112 cabins. This is sailing on the Snake and Columbia rivers in the Pacific Northwest. So it's sailing out of Portland 7 nights all the way up to Clarkston, which is near Spokane. So you send when you're doing this the direction east to west, you spend your pre-cruise night in Spokane, and then you'll bust down to Clarkston, and you go along the Snake River, and then along the Columbia River, end up in Portland, and vice versa. You do your pre-cruise night in Portland. So this is a very interesting voyage. It's a very historical voyage for the Americans because it follows the route of Lewis and Clark, who were great adventurers of the time, and found the Pacific Ocean. So with the help of an Indian guide, a group of men went down the Snake and Columbia rivers, and then at Astoria they discovered the Pacific Ocean. So it has great historical interest to the Americans, but it's becoming more popular to the international market, and flying to Portland, direct flights to Portland are becoming more accessible. And that is a picture of the sort of landscape, very different to what we see down south in Mississippi. On board they have an all-American crew, and they're all from either Memphis or New Orleans, so they're very friendly. They want to talk and sing about the area they're from, so it's a unique experience to have a crew who are from the area and are very, as soon as they hear international voices, foreign voices, they're very, very keen to engage in conversation. I think that's one of the plus points of the vessel. So that is our sort of brief overview. We have video, images, deck plans, and rates, etc., and brochures that we can send to you. Katrina will send these over to you a bit later today, probably in the next hour or so. So I'd like you to all to sort of see the video, because I do think that will sort of refresh your memory. We normally try and play it just before the presentation, but it is a good overview of the American Queen in particular. Anything can be booked through our office. By email, we have instant access to the availability, so we are able to give you immediate information on availability, pricing, etc., etc. So we're here to help. Katrina's the main point of contact. She's the general manager, and I'm one of the directors. But we hope that some of you already feature this vessel in your programs. We know, and so quite a few of you are new and probably listening to the presentation for the first time. So we're here to help. So if anybody wants specific information, please let us know. We'll send you obviously our contact details a bit later on. And I'll hand back to Christian, because I think if you have any questions, he'll then open the floor up to questions. But thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Ja, vielen Dank, Rupert und Katrina. Genau, ich werde euch jetzt zuerst mal alle nacheinander wieder also die Stummschaltung aufheben quasi, dass ihr wieder freigegeben seid, damit ihr eure Fragen stellen könnt. Ich würde euch dann einfach bitten, wenn ihr eine Frage habt, kurz euren Namen zu sagen, dann kann ich sagen, wer dran ist, dass jetzt nicht irgendwie, weiß nicht, 10 Leute versuchen durcheinander zu reden, sondern dass wir es ein bisschen geordnet haben. Moment, es sind geordnet haben. So, nach und nach kommt ihr jetzt alle da. Also ihr müsst jetzt ein bisschen aufpassen, was ihr sagt, was im Hintergrund bei euch passiert.
Also ihr müsst jetzt ein bisschen aufpassen, was ihr sagt, was im Hintergrund bei euch passiert.
Ach so, ja, irgendwer, genau, hat den Ton laut. Ich kann mich jetzt selber hören, quasi.
Ach so, ja, irgendwer, genau, hat den Ton laut. Ich kann mich jetzt selber hören, quasi.
Genau. Genau, die erste Frage ist schon im Chat, Rupert und Katrina. So
genau, die erste Frage ist schon im Chat, Rupert und Katrina. So what would be
also, einer von euch hat leider den Ton ganz laut, das heißt, alles, was ich sage, kommt doppelt an.
Einer von euch hat leider den Ton ganz laut, das heißt, alles, was ich sage, kommt doppelt an.
Okay, ich versuch's nochmal. So, Rupert and Katrina, what would be the best way to book the vessels through Germany?
Rupert and Katrina, what would be the best way to book the vessels through Germany?
The best way to book it is by well, you can either, the best way to book it is
One second, Rupert.
well, you can
So ich habe euch jetzt doch wieder alle stumm geschaltet, damit man auch was hören kann. Also ich bitte euch, falls ihr Fragen habt, wirklich dann nochmal im Chat die Frage zu stellen. Wir haben jetzt Rupert und Katrina haben Ton und ich habe Ton. So yeah, Rupert once again. So I muted everyone else. So yeah, the best way to book it in Germany would be?
Well, but the best way is via email, actually, to email us. So we can communicate mainly by email, particularly with overseas. They can telephone if they want specific details, but if they send an email and a request for a particular cabin, then we'll answer straight away with availability, and then we can send a confirmation. If it goes ahead, we send a confirmation, and then they need to pay a deposit.
Okay.
So email, in terms of the best way to book it is by email, if I think that's what he's asking, and then we will confirm everything to them by email and give them, then they need to confirm it with a deposit.
So do you work with any German tour operators?
Yes, we do. So yes, I'm seeing the point perhaps. So they can either book it directly with us, or they can book it via some of the tour operators that offer it. Some of the main tour operators that are offering it are Canusa, Dare Tour, the Dare Tour River Cruise department in particular. They've been operating with the American, all three vessels very successfully. FTI as well. So it's still early stages, but those are probably the three main German tour operators that we deal with.
Perfect. The next question would be, what's the age structure on board like? So is it more like 50 plus, or what it's like?
International passengers are 50, 55 plus. So it's I think with the musical connection with it, it's very much the music of the sort of 60s. So it's 50 to 55 plus. So the average age we know is about 53. But international passengers a little bit older on board because the domestic market is a bit older.
All right. So next question would be, if you work together with US receptives, so I guess that aims at the excursions that are offered?
Yes, we do. We can offer we can offer everything on the ground. So if a travel company was wanting to do the flights, put the flights together, we can do everything from airport transfers, pre-cruise hotel nights, post-cruise city stays, and then transfers back to the airports.
Oh, and I just see I got the question wrong. So it was aimed at if it's possible to book a cruise through US receptives as well.
Yeah, it is. If they're international passengers, generally the rule is that they come via the international booking office. So, but we do have some contracts with some American receptives. Yes, so it depends who the American receptive is. It is possible, yes.
Okay, perfect. So does anyone else have any questions? Please feel free to type them into the chat. Falls ihr den Chat noch nicht gefunden habt, da müsste irgendwo ein kleines Symbol sein, wo das Chatfenster dann aufgeht. Ansonsten, falls jetzt erstmal keine Fragen mehr sind, sind Trinkgelder. So the question is, tips included, and I think that was the point with the gratuities you were talking about earlier, right?
Correct, yeah. They're payable on board. Or if they want to prepay them, they would need to let us know at the time of booking. We can add them on for them.
So it's $16.50 per day this year, $17.50 next year, and that covers all the tips that are required, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Also alle Trinkgelder sind dann damit abgehakt. Ich warte noch eben, ob noch andere Fragen reinkommen. Ansonsten, wir haben das ganze Webinar auch aufgezeichnet. Das heißt, ich schicke euch im Nachgang einen Link, wo ihr das ganze Webinar euch auch nochmal als Video dann angucken könnt. Das heißt, wenn ihr irgendwo was nicht verstanden habt, wenn ihr euch den einen Punkt nochmal angucken wolltet, der jetzt vielleicht ein bisschen zu kurz gekommen ist, das könnt ihr dann alles nochmal im Nachgang euch in Ruhe angucken. Ansonsten, die nächsten Webinare, die wir haben, das ist Anfang August, das wäre Top Deck Travel, das ist sowas ähnliches wie STA Travel, also auch Reisen für 18 bis 35 Jahre. Danach die Webinare sind Dallas und Fort Worth, Illinois und Philadelphia. Da schicke ich euch die Termine auch nochmal rum. Es würde mich natürlich sehr freuen, wenn ihr dann da auch wieder dabei sein würdet. Ansonsten, ihr werdet ja auch eine E-Mail von Rupert und Kat bekommen. Das heißt, falls ihr dann noch Fragen habt, könnt ihr denen die gerne auch nochmal per E-Mail schicken. Ansonsten, I think there's no more questions coming in right now. So I think, yeah, we might be done. And I just told them if they have any questions, they can just contact you directly via email as well.
Yeah, so Katrina will email everybody so that they'll have all the contact details. So.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Rupert and Katrina. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, so I think we're done with our first webinar. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot. Cheers.